you, Julie, and thanks for the housekeeping and sharing the details. And good evening and welcome, everyone. And I thank you all for taking out the time and joining us today. My name is Mohit Sharma, Chair at IIRSM India branch, and I'm very pleased and honored to have like Mr. Bharat Raj, Chartered Health Safety and Environmental Professional, with an extensive industrial experience from designing to developing and delivering the HSE solutions into various segments, into various arenas throughout his career. He has gained his experiences working across UK, Middle East, and Asia. He has practical hand-on experiences, I would say, approach from corporate level to world-class different projects. And he also served as the chairman of IIRSM Middle East branch. And currently he is operating currently at Jacobs, Regional Director, Health Safety Environment, Asia region. So before handing over to our speaker today, I will just give you a quick glimpse about the IISM India branch. So starting with, as we all know, like 1% safer bursary program, from India, total 18 successful applicants were there who are eligible for free 1-year safer bursary program. And the safer bursary virtual event is going to happen on 15th June coming month, and all the applicants, successful applicants, are welcome to join the event and start their journey with IIRSM. And recently, we have reached 500 plus followers in LinkedIn page, IIRSM India branch LinkedIn page, and I will suggest you all to follow us on LinkedIn page for the quick and everything the newest event or the updates from IIRSM India branch or about the globally events. So you can have a quick glimpse updates from throughout our LinkedIn page. And one more point, we are IIRSM India branch, helping all the industries with the help of industry professionals throughout all the colleges into health and safety, for delivering the webinars or sessions into various health and safety topics. So any of the colleges or institute universities are interested, they can reach us to us, and we can definitely schedule the program further. So that's all about the today's uh, updates about the India branch. And I would thanks our speaker for joining us today and sharing his valuable time for this webinar. And yeah, over to you, Bharat sir.
Thank you, Mohit, and thank you, Julie. Hopefully you guys can see me and you can see my slide as well. So I'm going to start the presentation. There might be a bit of lag depending upon my internet speed. So thank you so much again for welcoming me. So what are we going to do today is I'm trying to keep it very simple today. So a couple of things that we're going to try and do is understand what defines mental health, what we can do, a few facts around mental health, and we'll probably do a mental health check-in as we finish the call as well. So I think those are the key things that we're going to do today. This course or this presentation today is not designed around trying to make you a mental health champion, but it's designed to give you a few background knowledge so that when you come across a situation, you can try and give you some tools to handle that situation. So just to kickstart us off, I'd like to look at a few facts around mental health and just gives you an idea of how big the challenge we have on our hands is. So it's estimated that it's costing the economy around $210 billion every year. Around 20% of the world's children and adolescents have a mental health issue. Now, how big is that challenge, right? Also, it says depression is the leading second cause for people and burden across all ages and across the globe as well. So that gives you an idea about how deep and how wide this challenge is. So good thing all of you are here today, and I'm happy that all of you are here today to understand this. So let's start off with a little bit of, I know everyone's been coming back from work. I know I just switched off work about half an hour ago to get onto this webinar. So let's start with a little bit of a breathing exercise to keep us calm down and in the room, yeah? So if I can have you breathe in and breathe out according to the music, that should be fantastic. And let's up on my end, just give me a second. Yep, it's come up. Let me see this one now.
Yeah, it's perfect now. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for
There
your
you go.
patience, everyone.
Thank you, guys. A bit of a glitch, and I should admit, I'm not as quick on computer as much as some of you are. So thank you for that. So a little bit of breathing just to calm us down and bring us back to the room. There's a bit of a question. How would you rate your mood right now, with 1 being, on the down end and 10 being the best? If you just want to pop it in the chat, I'll just wait for a few seconds so that we have a few. I can see a 6. That's good. Maybe, can we see a few more there, Mohit?
Yeah, yet to.
Cool. I think I can see 1 or 2 6s there. So that is good. Somebody else has said 6. So everyone feeling a good 6? That's on the high end. That is good. Anybody higher than that? Anybody feeling a good 9 or a 10, saying, yeah, end of the day, feel good? Or tired, had a busy day or a hectic day? Nope. Okay, I think
No.
we'll keep that on for a second, and let's move on to the next slide. And that way people can join the conversation as we go. So a few definitions before we start, which I think is critical. So 2 things that we look at. One is around mental health, saying what does mental health actually mean, and how do people look at it. So mental health is basically your well-being, in which everyone can cope with the stresses that life brings them, and they can bring themselves to work and contribute to work, to society, and to so on. That's around mental health. Okay. Now, mental illness is slightly different, and this is how the World Health Organization basically sums it up, that mental illness is a combination of abnormal behaviors and thoughts and your relationships with others, where you're not able to perform to your best, where you're not making a contribution to your job or to society and so on. So there's a slight difference in there. And the reason I say this is because it's so complex. This subject is so complex, and it's so much more deeper and challenging to deal with. Now, just to give you an idea of how these things work, think of this as a circle that's there. And if you look at this circle, you've got 2 axes that are there. One is around low mental health, which is around the bottom, and high mental health on the higher end, and high mental illness on your left, and low mental illness on your right. All right. So basically, where we want people to be is in the sort of flourishing and moderate bit. If someone is in the sort of languishing and mental illness stage, then they need to see a professional who can help them. And the idea is, just be aware that different people are at different stages of this. There's no one what do you call it, one model that fits all. People can be at different places and at different days, and that's okay. That's fine, as long as you're able to pull yourself out of it and deal with the everyday pressures of life. That's good. All right. What you don't want is people going continually into the bottom corner, where you're languishing in your mental illness and you're moving into the mental illness zone, which is a challenge, because then, as I said, you've got to get professional help. So moving on, again, a couple of slides to help you sort of understand where we are and how we are on the continuum. Now, normally we want to try and be between the healthy and reacting stage. which is okay, right? And because depending upon your daily pressures, you can be switching between feeling fantastic one day, and if you've had a heavy day, if you've had a few challenging meetings and a few tough conversations or something, there's a deadline coming up, you could get into the reacting stage, which is great, which is fine. Again, but the point is you being able to switch back into that healthy zone, right? What we don't want is people switching from healthy all the way moving into injured and ill. And that's the stage where we don't want people going. And how do we recognize it? And how do we help people when they start moving from one stage to the other? So that's that table there for you. So just try and move on to the next slide. Oh. Now this is something that are not a lot of people realize as well. Pressure is not the same as stress. All right. So the differentiation is our body has got three mechanisms it can cope with in a primitive sort of way. All right. It's fight, flight, or freeze. These are the three mechanisms you've got. Now, what happens is our body is phenomenal in the way it handles this. So what we have to understand is pressure is slightly different from stress. Pressure is around what you face in your daily situation, whether be it work, whether be it your travel, whether be it your family, whether be it the society, whatever it is. Stress, on the other hand, a lot of times is your reaction to it. So there's a slight difference there. And if you understand that difference, it makes great changes to your mental health. Now, another thing is your body, brilliantly as it is, cannot differentiate between an actual stress event and an actual pressure event on its own. All right. So chronic activation of this mechanism of, flying high and getting really stressed out and pressure and then coming back to norm. Again, feeling stressed out and pressure and coming back to norm. Chronic activation of this mechanism is what hurts your health. That's where people start to develop sort of events in their life where they can't cope with it, where they have physiological changes, and when they start having their blood pressure starts to go up. That's when all the changes happen. And the funniest bit is, as I said, your body can't differentiate between a real event and a fake event. And I don't know if you've noticed this sometimes when you have, when you do an accident investigation or when you're investigating something, uh, when you tell people, can you close your eyes and imagine what happened that day? When they go through that series of events, you will see their body shaking sometimes. And that's because their body is imagining that same event and going through that same endorphins of, high and low, just thinking about it. So that's something to bear in mind for you, for yourself and for anybody else at the next time. Now, again, looking at stress and pressure, where we want to be. So that's the sort of graph where we have the stress and pressure. Now, ideally, we want everybody within the blue zone, as we call it, which is a little bit of pressure and, so that we can all perform well. And again, not everybody is the same. Some people don't like pressure at all and they like to perform in this zone. Some people like a bit of pressure, they like to perform in this zone. And some people like to prefer to work on the top end zone, which is a bit of pressure, a bit of stress, and that gives them a high. So again, this is not a one size model that fits all. It's just a graph for you to understand where different people participate and different people work through the day. Now, again, as with everything else, we don't want people going off the graph and coming onto the burnout zone, which is a high level of stress, which again gets you into a different kind of mood where you can get indecisive, where you can get aggressive, where you get completely exhausted day in, day out, and you can't come back and cope with the daily stresses of life. Now, hopefully this is moving for you guys as well. Just shout out to me if it doesn't move. Now, one of the things that we can actually use when we are talking to people with a mental health challenge is using a active listening model. And in this, there are various models again. In this, I've just quoted layer, which is actively listening to somebody who is talking to you. So you listen to the person without judgment, which is again difficult. And you acknowledge what that person is saying. and you sort of explore what that person is saying and then make your response. So try, when somebody's talking to you around a mental health issue, or they're saying, they're finding it tough, try not to get onto a solution driven immediately. You know what, I've tried this and this is what works. So try and listen to them, take a step back, listen to them, have a good listen to what are they saying, what is the cause of stress, try and acknowledge. And there are two ways in which we operate. One is when you start thinking, I usually say it's above your shoulders and below your shoulders. Once it's above your shoulders, that's where you're analyzing things. Try and listen more from your heart level, where you're trying to sort of acknowledge and how they feel and acknowledge what they're going through. So when you're talking to somebody, when you're dealing with somebody who's coming up with a mental health challenge, try and ask open-ended questions. Try and ask them, so this is what I understand. How does that make you feel? And how are you feeling right now? And how can I help you? What are other things that I can do for you? Rather than jumping into a solution for them. It might work, it might not work, depending upon, again, personalities and different kinds of people. But again, the idea is before you respond to somebody, try and acknowledge what they're feeling, and that helps them a lot. That helps them deal with things a lot, and let's help them explore a lot. And sometimes you can explore together as well. If you want, you can also go another step forward and ask them and say, look, can I try and help you with this? Or can we explore this together? Can we we'll try and find out what exactly we can do, what you can do better, or what I can help you with, and can we go through this together? And ask them the permission. That sort of clicks and makes them more open and more receptive, and to talking about this. Now I've got a video here. If on the next slide, Julie, if you want to help us play that video, or should I try it like the last time again?
Yes, if you just share your screen.
Yeah.
And
it
choose
says
the
active
second video.
Yeah, active listening. Okay, cool. And this video brilliantly sums it up. I fell off my chair laughing when I watched this video the last time. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it as well.
It's just, there's all this pressure, And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on.
Ow.
If you would just...
Don't.
So that's the video. And I will go down to, so that's the video for you guys. Hopefully that was audible and you guys could see it.
We
now,
could, thank you.
Okay, brilliant. And hopefully, should move on to, hopefully you can see my slides now.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, when we're switching back and forth, I'm not really sure. So moving on to, this was around, what is mental health, defining it, trying to understand the basics of it, trying to understand that different people sort of move through that, to that graph and through that circle that we saw. And we also saw a table from green to red that shows the variance in mental health and how you want to try and get back to that green zone and how you want to stay in a healthier zone. Now the second part is around a couple of slides, around 2 or 3 slides around what can organizations do and what can we do differently. So one of the more, again, as with all safety, sorry, I'm just, give me a second. There's another screen on my screen. I'm not really sure whether this is supposed to be here. I'll just press escape on that. Okay, so as with all things we do in health and safety, the challenge is around employee engagement and mental health, especially more because there is a real stigma around it, right? People don't open up. People don't want to talk about how they feel. People don't want to talk about, how it hurts them. And it's a real vulnerable position to be in. So think about everything that you can do to improve that understanding. And what you can do is, we'll come to that in the next slide with a couple of things that managers and line supervisors can do. Take this in the long run. Don't expect changes in the first month itself, because it takes a long time for people to open up, for people to be comfortable that I can talk about what hurts me. I can talk about my mental health. I can talk about that I'm not feeling good today. And for people to open up, it takes time. So take the long run. Reduce the stigma by making it a common topic in and around your meetings, in and around the meetings that you do, for example, in your daily course of life, in and around the meetings that your team does, in and around the meetings that your companies does, the various levels of organization that you have. Try and get feedback from the employees as well. And again, this applies to all of the safety programs that we do, but especially more in mental health, because if you do not get feedback, the right feedback from the employees, your program's not going to take off and have that, that engagement that is there. And another key thing is reduce the time and effort, because often we find this, that we go and have a mental health program or we go and have a safety program of some sorts where it takes time for people to participate. So for example, let me give you an example. I was talking to another company the other day and we were discussing a great deal about having a meeting free day. So initial idea was, oh, let's have a meeting free day and that should work. And let's try that as an example for 3 weeks or 3 months. So we discussed around a lot of various levels of the company, and finally it came down, okay, let's start with an afternoon of no meetings and then let's move it to, a day. And Friday was chosen as the day because obviously it's coming to the weekend. Now, the company, everybody signed off and said, yep, that's a great idea, let's do that. So I give the company a 3 weeks look ahead, and they said, look, let's do one thing. 3 weeks from now, let's start, let's look at our calendars right now. And 3 weeks from now, let's stop booking meetings from 12 p.m. Friday all the way till 4 o'clock. So that time is free for everyone. Now, as we were doing this, certain line managers and certain staff came in and they were continuing to book, just sheer habit, just out of sheer habit. They was continuing to book meetings and arrange for meetings within that time. So if we had to go back and then talk to the staff, talk to the line managers again, and we were doing this with 3 or 4 groups. So we had to sort of manage around 50 or 200 people. This is a small size company that I'm talking about. They had about 400 odd employees. So we had to manage about 150 employees and tell them, guys, it's not out of sheer habit. Just try and make a conscious effort to not book a meeting. And it took them a couple of weeks again to rejig the entire thing. But eventually we got there, very successfully done that. Friday afternoon, they were meeting free. And in about 2 months time, they were all, that mental pressure of a Friday or coming up to the weekend, because people were so stressed about coming up to the weekend and coming up to the Monday because of the deliverables they had. And that sort of moved away. So engage with your audience, engage with your staff, get real-time feedback with them, what works, doesn't work, and be flexible in your approach. That is one key thing. All right, we need to make sure that everybody's on board. Be flexible in your approach. You will reach the end game. It's just a matter of time. That's just about it. Now, what can line managers and supervisors and anybody else can do is be vulnerable. All right, be vulnerable in talking about this. When you open up meetings, here's something that you can try in your next meeting. When you do your next meeting, if you are chairing the meeting, be vulnerable and open up and saying, you know what, guys, I'm not feeling well today. I'm not in a great place, and my mental health, and say that and see how the people in your room react. Because initially you will find a bit of shock. People will look at you like, what are you talking about? If you've not already been doing this, they look at you like, oh, what are you talking about? Or if you've already been doing this, you will find people coming up and approaching you and saying, okay, What can we do about it? And that sort of pulls that curtain down and opens up conversations. All right. And similarly, model healthy behavior. When you see somebody down, when you feel somebody is not feeling well, get them to open up. It can be tough. Get them to open up, but coach them, acknowledge what they're going through, get them to open up. Another thing, now we're coming out of the pandemic, which is a great thing, but even otherwise, make a culture to check in with people to say, hey, I haven't heard from you in a long time. What's happening? Or, hey, the last time we checked in, you were doing X, Y, Z. So how are you doing now? How is it going for you? How's family? Get a culture within your team and within your circle of influence to develop that culture. And again, this takes a long time because people don't want to be vulnerable. It's not, they don't feel it as a safe space. So it will give them some time, but keep at it, keep doing it, and you will see people opening up slowly and steadily. The other is in your mental health programs, when you organize it within your organizations, offer flexibility and be inclusive to everyone. All right. Again, back to the program that I was talking about earlier, we were talking about flexi work. And the company had a flexi work policy of saying between the morning, you have an hour of flexi work, and in the evening, you have an hour of flexi work. And they were like, between the core days and the core hours, we need everybody to be within the office space and available. And we sort of took that through the entire 200 or 150 people that we were challenging to change the ways they work. And we got fantastic feedback on how the company can be more flexible and more inclusive to different people. Not all jobs will fit within that remit, and not all roles will fit within that remit. So we got a great discussion around how we can include that. And we changed some of the parameters. Instead of early morning, we moved that time to midday, and instead of early evening, we moved it to late evening, so that it made it more flexible. So think about the larger picture and think about what else can you change to make that happen, so that people can be more vulnerable, people can participate. You build that culture, and try not to, and one of the most important things is try not to bubble wrap this. So it isn't saying about just being sympathetic. It's about understanding that person and what they're going through. Be mindful that this is complex. It's not simple. It might look very simple on the face of it, but it's actually a very complex situation. Coach, that's another thing. You got to be on your coaching hat day in, day out, all the time. It's not about saying, mental health this, mental health that. Coach people, coach your colleagues, coach your line manager, coach people, your peers, coach people below you on how to understand and what we can go through and how we can do this. And key important thing is don't bubble wrap it, because a lot of times people tend to bubble wrap it and say, oh, it's okay, or, it's not okay. That's not the whole point. The whole point is, let people be vulnerable. Let them come to the game at their own time. Don't force them to it. Let them come, let them take their time, let them open up, and that way you get better engagement and you get a better traction within your employees and your staff and your colleagues feel more valued. They feel they're a part of that solution, and that way you get a better program all around. And the reason I also say that this is very complex is I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'll try it again. Hopefully it works. Julie, I hope this link is going to work if it opens up YouTube.
It may do. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Try.
If not, I'll try playing it on YouTube and then sharing my screen, because I think it's a brilliant video. Unfortunately, it's not coming up, I think.
No, I don't think it will work. I didn't spot this video, but people will be able to click on it when they, if we
When they
share
get
your
it. Okay.
slides. Yeah,
Okay.
we can share that.
Okay, no worries. That's okay. So this video is basically, it's a short 40-second video, and it's from a famous musician who took his own life due to mental illness. And this video was apparently shot 24 hours before he took his own life. And in that video, you can see him having a meal with his family. And he is as happy as you can imagine. He's happy, he's laughing through his pains, and he's going about it. And looking at that video, nobody would have thought that he was going to take his life the next day. And it's a real eye opener to how people are good at masking how they feel and how they can cover up what they feel. So it takes a lot of time. As I said, it takes a lot of time for them to open up. So be patient, coach all the time, and give them the time and space, and people will open up slowly and steadily. Now, also something that you can use is something called 1 million lives. Now, this is something we have developed through the company with a team of psychologists across the globe. Now, the website is right there, and I'll try and hope we can do this if we have the time today. But basically, it's a website that uses a lot of analytics through that the psychologists have worked on, and there is no fee to using this. So it's absolutely free. You can do multiple check-ins as a single person, as a group. You can ask everybody to do it, and all you need is an email ID and an internet connection. That's it. And once you're able to access the internet, you can use it. So if you click on that link, you can try it even now if you want. And I would urge everyone to do it now so that we can go through this. And you may have to register. Quick 2 minutes it takes to register. And when it asks you if you want to do the full check-in, that'll give you a better sort of graph at the end. And what it does is it produces a graph for you at the end, like the one that you're seeing on screen at the moment. And it takes you through different how your mental health is at the moment. And don't worry, if you see, like this was mine a couple of days ago. So don't worry about this if you score low on this. The good thing is you need to check in every couple of days or every couple of weeks, depending upon how you feel. And another good thing is when you click on these graphs at the end, it gives you ideas and things that you can do. And it goes across these various parameters that are there. For example, I found out that my perfectionism is coming in my way of being healthy, mentally healthy. I want everything to be 100% perfect. Everything has to be good. Everything has to be in order, and everything has to, look trim and proper. And that was holding me back. So in the last couple of months, I would say around 6 months, I've had to tone that down and understand that, every day, everything cannot be perfect. It has to, there are good days and bad days. Some days something's good, some days it's not, and tone down on that perfectionism a little bit to improve my mental health. Similarly with sleep, I was getting 7 hours of sleep, but I wasn't feeling refreshed in the morning. And then I took some tips from this on how to cope and get better sleep. And now 6 hours of sleep and I feel very refreshed in the morning. So it gives you various tips and tricks that you can do. And I'd urge everyone to do it. Share it with your friends, share it with colleagues. All of you can use it and use it time and again. It's not a one-time thing to use. The benefit of this is only when you use it time and again. So the more you use it, the more familiar you get with the tool, and the more you can draw out of it, and the more you compare your scores, saying, okay, last week I was at 50, this week I'm at 55 or 60 or 70, and the week after when you check, you might be at 45. Then you look back at what was the stressors and what caused it. So it's a great tool to do, and this is completely free of charge. So please use it as much as you can. And I would urge everyone, if you can use it now, we can have a great discussion around it, and I allow for around 15 minutes of 15 minutes time to have a great chat as well. So that is the end of my slides. And as I said, if you want to try doing this check-in right now, and we can have a few good discussion around the chat, or if you have any questions and answers for me, I can happy to take it and provide you with possible, tentatively what you can do and how you can go about it.
Thank you for that. That's a really interesting presentation. I really liked both of your videos, and apologies for the technical hitches. They were mine and not the speakers. I use Calm app quite a lot. I find it quite useful when I'm going to sleep. It kind of shuts the mind down instead of being overactive and thinking about things.
Yeah, and I use a free version of Calm as well, and I use it, in that last hour just before sleep. I use it a lot every single day, and it helps me just bring my mind to that moment and just gets me much brilliant sleep.
Yeah, me too. And I love that second video because everybody wants, I think your natural instinct if someone's suffering is to try and fix it for them. So I think that video brilliantly summed up resisting the urge to try and fix it, as you put it. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Mohit, do you have any questions?
No, I was just trying the over the websites. Like I was feeding my details and I was trying to do it now. But no worries, like it is under process. But yeah, the absolutely this is something like out of the box, which usually we go through the general mental health theory, like boring kind of sessions. But this is completely different. Something new we got to learn. And videos, either we talk about videos or the pictorial contents, like it reflects actually what how it can be related. Actually by seeing the presentation I was relating, yeah, this is the thing which we generally face and how to. Yes, it was a wonderful one. And the website at the end, million lives, that is also absolutely, I will be going through it and I will be doing it as advised by the our speaker, and definitely it will help. And I hope all the other attendees would have enjoyed the session, and they might be doing it as well, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And
No,
yeah,
I think it's a
please.
brilliant tool because
Yeah.
sorry, Mohit, in the last year, I've used it extensively on my regular catch-ups with my team and my extended team. We do it almost every 2 to 3 weeks. And we've gotten to a stage, and as I said, initially when we did it again, everybody did it and nobody wanted to share their scores. And again, it's just a classic example of how it takes time for people to open up. So people didn't want to share it when they did the first time. They were all not wanting to share their screens. I think it was around the fifth time we did it that people started openly sharing their screens and say, you know what, I'm comfortable sharing my screen with this team and with this group, and this is my score today, and I'm okay with it. Or, this is my score, and this is why I think my score is so and so. And then you get the benefit when you do it time and again, and you check it again and again. And it's a great discussion tool. You can do it as your, instead of a safety moment or at the end of your meeting, or you can do it as a meeting itself, just checking in, have a meeting, just checking in on each other and how you're doing. It's a great, brilliant tool to use.
Yes,
We've just had
absolutely, I agree.
Oh, sorry. We've just had a question come in from Sanjay. This is an interesting one. How safe is it for employees in corporate to share mental health problems? I think in India it will take more decades to understand mental health.
It is, and it's both. I think it's both the complexity and the stigma attached to it, and that is what it is. I don't think it's around anything else. I think it's around the stigma and the complexity of it. So I think what I would say is we're doing good work. There's a lot of change happening in that space. More and more companies are doing mental health programs. So the grassroots level is changing. Like 3 years ago, if you spoke to somebody around, mental health in India, they wouldn't know what you were talking about. But I think in the last 2 years, partly due to the pandemic as well, but a lot more companies are taking to this. And look, people like you and me are always here championing this cause. So reach out, and I would say leverage this network. And IIRSM is a perfect example. Leverage this network wherever you find resistance within your companies, within your networks, within your this thing. Leverage IIRSM and its network to break through those barriers and get that message through, whether it's through your management, to your team, to your extended team, and use this platform. And I think in the next year, when we look back, we would have made even more inroads, is my thinking on it.
Thank you. We've just had another comment added to that. I think if I read it correctly, that they're saying if any employee reported mental health, he will be fired. It's quite concerning.
It is. And look, again, not to bubble wrap it, unfortunately, there are organizations that might resort to it, but that's the way the industry is. And we are on a journey at the moment. And I think it's part of the journey that we got to educate. And that's why I said health and safety professionals, mental health professionals, we've got a huge role to play in this on sort of coaching. It's not about just talking the theory, it's about coaching and getting people through that journey. And I think that's the difference, because a lot of times we end up just sharing that theoretical bit. And I think it's about that journey and bringing people on that journey with you. And that is the sort of difference that it makes. And all you got to do is change that one, in that team, all you got to do is change that one person's thinking, that one person who you think will benefit most from it. And that then sort of, the compound of that will keep and bringing in the changes. But unfortunately, yes, there are some companies that are still way behind, but I think it's a matter of time. And, we should catch up, and we will be there.
Thank you. Any more questions from you, Mohit?
Like one questions I would like to just how we can relate like imposter syndrome as a mental health or like something. Is it completely both different way or imposter syndrome like?
Yeah, in my head, I think of it slightly differently. In my head,
Okay.
imposter syndrome is when you're not 100% there, and you think you're not capable of doing a particular job, or you're not capable of doing a particular presentation, and you're not sure about doing something. Whereas mental health is around how you feel about it. How you feeling stressed? Are you feeling pressured? How you feeling about it? Whereas I just that's the way I feel about it. Imposter syndrome is more around you feeling really up to the challenge that is there.
Right.
I'm not sure if that makes sense at all. Let me give you an example. 2 days ago, I was having a what I would say a coachable or a tough conversation with a colleague of mine, and we were going through this heated argument, and we were sort of, it was just, I could see my colleague just sort of feeling stressed and pressured, and I just said, okay, hang on, let's take a break, and for a moment let's take 30 seconds off, and let's both focus on how we are feeling at the moment, and let's come back to this. So it was that at that second, it served as a perfect icebreaker for that discussion, and both of us took 30 seconds to a minute off, just to calmly think about it. And when we came back, I said, okay, hang on, before we get on to the discussion again, I'll tell you what I feel at the moment, and then you tell me how you feel. And then I opened up and I said, look, at the moment, I feel angry and I feel frustrated that we aren't able to move forward. It's not so much about the solution, but I just think these are the bits that's annoying me, and these are the bits that I'm feeling, and I'm feeling really stressed about it. And then I asked him to say, how are you feeling? And then he described how he felt, and then we were able to move that conversation along. Of course, we didn't resolve it in that meeting, whatever we wanted to resolve. We scheduled the meeting for the next week, which is coming in 2 weeks. But we were able to diffuse that situation and get the better of that situation, and reserve that space there, and bring our feelings to that table. So I don't know if that makes sense, and if you can relate to that, but that worked brilliantly for me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like you rightly pitched on, and definitely in this type of scenario, yes, this is the one which really it will help. I can relate it. Being in the
Yeah,
constructions, like all the heat up conversations and
yeah,
this all it's
yeah.
goes on.
And I worked with another company as well brilliantly, which they had a very strange way of doing this. One of the things they had was, when you come to a meeting, you know that there's going to be a bit of conflict and a bit of this thing. So you could come, and in the first, I think they spent 5 minutes or 7 minutes. They spent the first 5 minutes or 7 minutes venting at each other, because they were on this high profile project they were working on. They spent the first 5 or 7 minutes venting at each other, saying what they had to say in their mind, and just yelling it out at each other. But after 7 minutes, you had to calm down, and you went through a calming session, and then you focused on the task at hand. And I thought that was a different way of doing things. It worked brilliantly for that company. Obviously, they've been doing it for some time, and it worked brilliantly for them. So there's another example.
Great, thank you. We just had one more question come in, if we can probably make this the last one. It was quite a long one. Hopefully I read it correctly. It is observed that those in line functions are more stressed than the support function. What is your observation, and what should be done about it?
Again, this is a very complex but a very familiar question. I think it's complex because it's not just about mental health. It's also around the cultures, depending upon where you work. So Asia and India predominantly have a very hierarchical culture where everybody tends to look up for a solution, or everybody feels that the boss will have the solution. So, he will tell us what to do, or they will tell us what to do. And it works the other way around on the line managers as well. They feel so pressured to have a solution and to have the right answer all the time. So my answer to that is, don't feel that pressure. Leverage your network And it's okay if you don't have all the answers all the time. Ask your team saying, okay, what if we do this, or what if we do this, this, and this, 3 things that we can do, or does any of you have a different solution? Or, leverage your team, be a bit more vulnerable, let down your guard and be human within your team. And sometimes you get the most, most of the times, not sometimes, most of the times you get the most brilliant answer and the most brilliant solution that works for everyone from in the team. And that's the opposite sides of what I see with the line managers and with the staff as well, and especially in India and a lot of companies in India and across Asia.
Thank you. That was a really comprehensive answer. Well, thank you so much for running this webinar for us. I found it fascinating, as I'm sure everyone else did who attended. So thank you for giving the presentation, and thank you everyone for your time this evening. I hope you all have a good evening and see you at the next India branch webinar. Good evening all.
Thank you all. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for sharing your time and valuable insights about the mental health webinar. And definitely, like I did enjoy the session, and I hope all the other all the other members would have did it. And definitely, we will reach you out in futures for again such wonderful webinars. And thank you again, and thank you all the participation for your time.
Thank you all again. Pleasure.